Hey, it's another day. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. Hey, it's interesting. I said it's another day, and I wasn't even thinking. Debbie, our topic is: Have you been at death's door? Have you been really, really close to death where you may not have actually got to enjoy another day of breath and life, but you lived to tell about it? How did that change you? How did that change your outlook on life, your perspective? How did that change your relationship with God or other people? Debbie, this is what we're talking about today. Life is we're so resilient. You see people, Debbie, who are in massive accidents and just mangled, and you think there's no way they're going to survive that. And, maybe months later, they're back to living a kind of a fairly normal life. It's a testimony to how God built the human body and the human spirit. And yet, Debbie, in the snap of a fingers, something could happen and we could be gone. So that's what we're talking about today.
We are talking about that, how life is precious and life is fragile. And we're talking about all the elements that surround that and what that means for us as Catholic Christians, what that means for our purpose in life. Let's look at that because, like you said, Jerry, we've seen pictures of people being in an accident where their body is flown through the air, many, many feet, and they've lived to tell about it. And why is that? Was maybe their purpose on earth was not fulfilled yet. So they needed to continue their mission on earth. They needed to heal and be a testament and a witness and to go out and evangelize like we're all called to do. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it is just that the body is so resilient, it just longs to survive, or maybe that's the element of it. We want to talk about it today. Let's have that living room conversation that you would have with your family and friends if you were to have a dinner party or a social gathering and you would invite people over and just start talking about things. That's what we want to talk about right now, that life is precious and life is fragile. We want to hear about your experience or even your take on this, what you feel about this in a general sense, because it's going to affect all of us. And here come the phone calls already. That this is so awesome. So it's going to affect all of us. Let's talk about it. 1-800-585-9396. The calls are coming in already, Jerry. You see how quickly. See, our listeners don't wait. They know not to hesitate because they want to get in. This hour moves fast.
Yeah, that number again is 1-800-585-9396. Now, listen, we're not talking about, if you've had sort of like a death experience where, you went to the light and
near death,
we're really just talking about, things that you had an illness, maybe an accident, maybe somebody that you know. And you had a firsthand, right in front of you look at really how fragile and precious a life is. This is what we're talking about today. And Debbie, I know you have your own experience, and I do, not personally, but with my mother. And so, I don't know, maybe you can share a little bit about, you say often that you're a cancer thriver. So describe for our listeners, how going through that and really, I guess, in a sense, coming face to face with death changed your life.
Well, yeah. It was 1994, and I was a young mom, newly married. And I'll tell you, I think I can speak for all of us who have gotten that discussion with our doctors where they finally say the test came back and it's showing cancer. And when you hear that word, it's unbelievable. I remember sitting on the table, the examining table, and I felt like the walls were just closing in. It was just that the walls just kind of closed in. I felt like I was in this little cave, and it was so, I felt so alone, like, oh my goodness. And then, of course, fear set in, the unknown. What does that mean? And then going through the whole cancer process and the treatment, and, how so many times the doctors would say, wow, it's a good thing we caught it now because it started to spread and this was happening and that was happening. And you get all these elements that start coming into the equation, and every one of them it's not peaceful, Jerry. It's you just have all this unknown and unsettling feeling. And so you do come to grips with your own mortality. You do finally, say to yourself, especially at nighttime. I know a lot of other cancer thrivers can share in this. At nighttime, you have a lot of time to think, and you're thinking, wow, should I start getting my affairs in order? Should I start, saying my goodbyes? Should I start telling all the people that I love them? You go through this whole litany in your brain of what you should do because, you're kind of like, okay, this could be it. And it is a wake-up call, I will tell you. For me, it turned out to be a huge blessing, Jerry, a huge blessing, because I used to always be a person that kind of worried about the future. And I would look back at the past and I'd worry about the future, and that's not a good place to be. After having a cancer, I live much more in the moment, maybe even sometimes too much in the moment. But you know what? I'm really getting the most out of life and the most out of ministry. So that's my little story on it. And I know you're going to share your story about your mom.
Yeah, and again, I just want to remind our listeners, it's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Our topic today, life is precious, but life is also fragile. And maybe you yourself have come to realize just what your life is worth, or the life of somebody that you love. Maybe you have a spouse or a child or someone, a sibling, someone, a friend that you know who is currently maybe facing death right now, or has come through maybe an accident or an illness and got, maybe didn't look like they were going to make it through. And,
right.
How does this change us? Because all things work for good to those who love God, as I believe it's the book of Romans says. And, God has a purpose in all of these things. So how did that purpose play out for you? 1-800-585-9396. I'll just share real quickly about my mom, God rest her soul. About 3 weeks ago, we had the first anniversary of her death. But I used to jokingly say, and I can do this because she's my mom, she fake died about 3 times, because she was 90 when she died, but she had just over the last few years, just lots and lots of problems. She'd have falls. And there was one time, Debbie, she had what they thought was a stroke, and they put her on a ventilator. And I went out on social media and I said, everybody pray for my mom. And she's not gonna live, and our 5 siblings were scattered all around the country. So we're frantically, texting and emailing and phoning, and what were her wishes? Okay, she didn't want to be kept alive, and all of this, and so we all made the prayerful and tearful decision. We said, okay, we agreed. She did not want to be artificially kept alive, so we gave the doctors the go-ahead to take her off the ventilator, and they said, well, she will pass fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. The next morning, she's up and around and just basically back to herself again. So that's what I mean when she fake died a couple times. But I mean, this is what I'm talking about the resilience, the strength of the human spirit and all of that. But there were a couple other times too, So I just, and so as the son of someone who was there, and of course my father passed away as well. So I have that experience of knowing when a loved one gets to that point, and it can have an impact on all of us. So this is a conversation. And Debbie, there are people who don't know how to deal with this situation. So those who have, you share your take today, and you could make somebody's life completely different in a positive way by sharing what you've been through.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of parishes around the country, Jerry, that have death and dying programs. And I would highly recommend that people take the time to attend one of them if you have it in your area, because it really does help. The process of dying can be a beautiful, peaceful experience. It has a lot of conversion attached to it. There's a lot of sense of hope in the afterlife, and so there's so many elements to the dying process that can be quite beautiful if we allow it to be. If we get into the fear and and what happens if this, and what happens afterwards, and I'm going to miss them, and that whole grieving thing that sets in early on, if we get caught in that part of it, we lose out in all the other elements of it. So we want to talk about all the different angles of it. Phone lines are filling up. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to go right to the lines. Charles has been waiting patiently in is that Massachusetts, Jerry? Is that Massachusetts? Yeah.
Sure looks like it. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Massachusetts. I couldn't see the screen, Charles, so we're going to get right to you. We're going to take that break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how life is fragile, life is precious. Have you ever been at death's door and maybe had to face that? We want to talk about it today, so stay with us on Take Two. This is an important conversation. We need you. We need you to have this conversation. We'll be right back.
Check out EWTN's official YouTube channel.
Just follow the link on our homepage at EWTN.com or go to YouTube.com/EWTN.
Watch EWTN's live shows or today's homily from the Daily Mass.
Click the upload button to see our most recent clips.
You can also find all of EWTN YouTube content by clicking the playlist button.
It's all on the official EWTN YouTube channel at YouTube.com/EWTN.
Visit today.
Divine Intimacy Radio.
What we're going to be doing in the coming weeks, in the coming months, I'm very excited to begin studying the writings of Teresa of Avila. We're going to be going through a book called 30 Days with Teresa of Avila. This isn't a book study show, so we're not going to be reading the text necessarily, and line by line going through that. That'd be a little strange for radio. But what we will be doing is reflecting on the wisdom from her letters.
Divine Intimacy Radio, Sunday, 6:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 11 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hello, this is Bishop Ronald Gaynor of the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
This is Michael Warsaw, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of EWTN.
Hello, this is Father Mitch Pacwa. Have a blessed Lent from all of us at EWTN Radio.
So good to have you with us. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about the preciousness of life, but how life is fragile as well. We need to keep both perspectives in mind. And we're going to talk with you about that. Charles, you called first in Massachusetts, so you get to go first here on Take Two. Welcome, Charles. How are you?
Yeah.
Howdy, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hey, Charles.
It's Tom.
Oh, Tom, sorry about that. We got the name wrong here.
Tom McKenna from Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Well, welcome, Tom McKenna from Haverhill, Massachusetts. How are you?
Good. Married life with Andrea is going great. I want to talk about my brother, Jay McKenna, who died on the 20th of August. And what happened was he had been in a coma since the 4th. The Beverly Police Department found him on a bench, I think it was by the Beverly or Salem train station. He had been passed out. They took him to the Beverly Hospital, and then Beverly contacted Hope in Essex, Massachusetts, Hope Sanford, my sister. We went to Burlington on Tuesday, the 18th of August, and he was on a ventilator, and a Catholic priest was there, and I felt I held his hand, being totally blind, and you could listen to him breathing. It's going.
So what happened? Tom? How did this unfold?
Well, it unfolded that they took him off the ventilator, and I told him that I loved him. I told him that I was praying for him, and he died 2 days later on the 20th, Thursday, I believe was the 20th, and then they later had him cremated. And
wow.
The thing was, it was a very, very traumatic time for me because I wasn't close to my brother. I wanted to help my brother out, but the thing was, he couldn't live with me when I was living on Welcome Street because it was a one-room place. It was, only for myself, and I wanted to take him in, but he had lived on the street in Beverly, and he had lived on 119 Hale Street at the White Whale, slept there and slept any place where he could get a place to stay. My sister Hope tried to help him out, and he had been an alcoholic for years, and he had worked at Beverly Port Marina with Frank and Sue Kenzie, had a boat, but lost it all to alcohol.
Tom?
And he had lost his wife, Christine McKenna.
Hey, Tom, I just wanted to say, though, in your story, what is really ringing very clear to me is that the beautiful opportunity that you had to be able to tell your brother that you loved him. And he heard that. And that is a beautiful moment, because so many people, don't get that beautiful opportunity. And so I believe in my heart of hearts, and I know that the others, I believe, listening as well to your story, can really take comfort in knowing that you had that precious few moments, and he heard you. Believe me, he heard you, that your brother knew that you loved him. So I just think, thank you so much, Tom, for sharing your story, because it gives others hope to know that, being by the bedside of somebody who is ready to pass, to say those final words of love and comfort are really a beautiful thing. And so I'm glad you called in, Tom, and reminded us of that, to constantly be sharing how much we love our loved ones. Jerry?
Yeah, it's important for them, and it's important to us. So, Tom, thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Michael in Beaverton, Oregon, you are our next caller listening on one of our favorite stations, Modern Day Radio. Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Hey, Jerry, Debbie, how are you today? And I want to, first of all, say God rest your mother's soul, Jerry. I'll pray for her forever. And, Debbie, I'm glad you're still with us as a cancer survivor.
Thank you.
And my story is... in 2003, I was going to commit suicide. February 4th, 2003. I had a lot of things going on, a lot of issues. I was a raging alcoholic. I was in the Navy. They were going to kick me out. I was over $20,000 in debt. So I figured the best way out was to kill myself, because then I would not hurt my family and everybody else. And I didn't know what to do. But my mother, on the hindsight of this, was praying the rosary every day for me. She never gave up on me. And she sent a litany of the Library of Congress of Our Lady of Fatima literature to my house. And the same day I'm going to commit suicide is the same day I read, and I'm going to start to cry a little bit, with the rosary. With the rosary, there is no problem that can't be solved by the rosary. And I just looked at it. And then I heard this voice. And I know, I'm not no mystic or nothing, but I heard clearly that a female voice say, if you pray my rosary every day, I will solve all your problems. And I know I heard it. I know some people think they hear voices, but I know that was Our Lady telling me to pray her rosary every day. And I've been sober 13 years since that day. She saved my life through that rosary. The promises of the rosary, the third one says it will destroy vice, and it kills all the depression. The rosary just gives you life. And lately, I've been going to see our Lord at the Blessed Sacrament for 1,500 days in a row.
Wow.
And I go to adoration every day. I love him so much, and I love Our Lady. And the Catholic faith is just so beautiful. And I give out rosaries and scapulars wherever I go, trying to let people know that there's hope, and trying to tell people, don't give up on your husband, don't give up on your wife, don't give up on your kids, don't give up on nobody, because Our Lady listens to all of our rosaries and prayers, and she loves us so much. And she didn't give up on me, and she won't give up on none of you all who's listening, because I promise you this Mother of God is so wonderful, and she loves us all, and that's my story.
Yeah, Michael, Debbie, I know you want to say, I'll just say real quickly here, we're talking about life being precious and fragile, and here Our Lady especially knows both of those so very well. And Debbie, when she sees us in our most fragile state, I think she also sees us at our most precious point as well. And she did this amazing thing for Michael, and this is just one of so many things that our Blessed Mother has done for people over the centuries, Deb.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Michael, you started off your call with saying condolences to Jerry, and then saying, Deb, thanks for you being here. Well, Michael, thank you for you being here. And what I want to just highlight about your story is that you're moved to emotion because of the sense of love that you feel around you. Well, that's what Our Lady does for us. That's how much she loves you, Michael. And what I think is so truly beautiful about your story in the purest of sense is your earthly mother took to prayer and turned you over to your spiritual mother. And then your spiritual mother moved in and took care of you. And now you are reaping those beautiful rewards of that. So, Michael, you have a story to tell. You have a ministry now, because in your story is a ministry. And I think I agree with you that when I could hear your emotion building up, I felt the same way inside. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if we could just get your message, Michael, to every single person of how much the Blessed Mother loves us. And you just said it so beautifully from your heart. We are so glad you're here. Your ministry has just begun. And thank you for calling in. I would love to hear some more comments from you.
Yeah, I just want to say one more quick thing, and I promise you, I put my wife through hell for 10 years with my drinking, and she didn't divorce me, and now we're not together, but it's okay because Our Lady will bring us back. But I want to say on the air, my wife Carrie and my daughter and my son Zach and Jocelyn, I will die for them to get them to heaven. I'll do anything I can to lay down my life for them so they'll get to heaven. So believe you me, when things change, and they do, and Our Lady touches your heart like she has with me, I will love them any way I can to get those kids and my wife to heaven no matter what, even if I have to lay down my life for them.
Wow.
That's beautiful, Michael. And I know, Michael, that, what in all that you're saying here, and by the way, those of you on hold, we're going to get to all of you. We have full phone lines, some great calls coming up. We got a break in about 2 minutes here. But Michael, I know this took hard work on your part as well. You've kind of told this story in the Reader's Digest version, and for anybody who thinks that, it sounds like it was, Mary made it so easy for Michael, it's not going to be that way for me. Well, Michael, I'm sure you had to trust. You had to put in the hard work. You had to pray the rosaries. You had to believe. It probably wasn't an instantaneous thing, I wouldn't presume. So I just want to say, again, as Debbie did, thank you for not only sharing what you did here today, but for having the strength and the courage. And this is about what life, consists of, is the human strength and the human spirit. So Michael, we're going to let you go on that, brother. We just really appreciate you have helped to make the day of a lot of people who are listening. I'm sure of that.
I love you. I love you guys. I love you. Thank you.
Love you too,
we
Michael.
Love you too,
Thank
Michael.
Thank you. God bless
you.
All right. God bless you. 1-800.
Wonderful man.
1-800-585-9396. Tell you what, we got a couple minutes till the break. Daniel in Lafayette, Louisiana, let's get you on the air, and then if we have to get to the break, we'll just finish on the other side. But Daniel, on listening to EWTN Radio on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I was listening in, and I just felt out to call in. My wife and I are devout Catholics, and we've been trying to surrender to God, and we want for probably the last 24 years. We were in a motorcycle ministry on our way down to McAllen, Texas, when she had this real bad wreck, and she wrecked her trike going 70 miles an hour, broke the bike to pieces, and tore her up really bad. They airlifted her into Herman Memorial Hospital out of Houston, and I went to see her there. She had a punctured lung. She had a broken rotator cuff in her left arm. She had an open fracture on her right arm with the bone sticking out, some of it missing because she ground it up on the concrete. She had fractures in her spine. She had a right eye that didn't work. She had a lacerated liver. She had a punctured lung, a collapsed lung, a broken right leg, and a broken left ankle. She was broken up really bad. The nurses said she survived because of her punctured lungs, but she did. And,
Daniel, hold that thought just for a second, Daniel, because like I said, we've got the break, but I want to hear how this plays out, because Debbie,
Yes,
it sounds like Daniel would have been easier to list the things that were not broken during on his wife in this amazing accident. So Daniel, I can't wait to hear this, but this is just that one break that our affiliates take, and we've got to jump out for just 2 short minutes, and we're coming back on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. If you're on the line, don't go anywhere.
GMA Songwriter of the Year Matt Maher, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and Father Larry Richards are coming to the Chaffetz Arena, St. Louis, April 23rd.
One Faith Experience is a unique, dynamic, full-day conference and concert event that will leave you re-energized in your faith, lift your spirit, and empower you to help set the world on fire for Jesus Christ.
One Faith Experience, Chaffetz Arena, St. Louis, April 23rd.
Tickets for this life-changing event start at just $15 and are available online at onefaithexperience.com.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
There's a constant spreading of indifference to religion. See that attitude? Well, you've got your religion and I have mine, or I have no religion, but that's all up to you. It's all a personal choice. It doesn't matter. If you go to hell and fry, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does! And it matters to me if I do. Also, secularism. Well, we'll just keep religion out of it. That was never the intention of the founders of these United States. Don't buy that bologna sausage. The founders of this country were thoroughly religious, and they intended this to be a very religious country. And Thomas Jefferson, one of the people they sometimes say was irreligious. Thomas Jefferson said, this government cannot work if all we have are the laws. If we don't have religion to help people keep a sense of why they should keep the laws, it'll fail.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Something amazing is happening on EWTN. One wildly dynamic speaker and a team of young missionaries are on a cross-country road trip, spreading their message of hope in Christ. Their passion is awakening youth to the power of God's love. It's energetic, honest, affirming, like nothing you've seen on TV before. You're Amazing with Justin Fatika. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
Welcome back to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Before the break, we were just talking with Daniel in Louisiana, and he was sharing about his wife's motorcycle accident. And Daniel, if you could just pick up where you left off, maybe just rewind just a little bit so that our listeners can really get the full essence of your story. We are waiting on the edge of our seats to hear the ending of this story.
Well, before the break, I was just saying I listed all her injuries, which when I went into the trauma care where she was, and I asked them what was wrong with her, I even had to ask for a piece of paper because there was no way I could remember all the injuries they were giving me. But shortly after that, we get her into ICU, and she didn't remember the accident or whatnot. She was concerned about her motorcycle because that's how motorcycle people are. But through the whole ordeal in the ICU, what struck me so strange is her mind was sharp as a tack. If they asked her what surgery she had, she could rattle them off with the date. She could tell them medicine she was on, medicine she was allergic to. There was something so obvious that the grace of God was with her in ICU. One of the little nurses even came in, and it irritated me the way he spoke to her. This is what he said to her. I mean, she's broken up real bad. She's on medication. This is what he said. He said, Maddie, he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, what's your pain level? And I'm thinking, you think you could slow that down a little bit? But before I could say anything, she looked at him and she said 0. And it threw him, and he looked at her and he said, what? She said 0.
Wow.
So there was some obvious stuff going on. The third day in ICU, one of the trauma surgeons walked in, and he says to her, he says, how you doing, Maddie? She said, I'm doing fine. He said, you remember me? She said, oh, yeah. He said, you were fussing at me. She said, you hurt me. He was one of those moving her around to see what was broken, you know. But her mind was so clear and sharp. And then he said, now this is the third day in ICU, he said, you're healing up in leaps and bounds. And that's amazing for as broken up as she was. And I told him, I said, yeah, Doc, there's a lot of people praying for her. And he said, yeah, I'm praying for her too. So it was just amazing what was going on, which should have been some horrors. Now, she got out of ICU in about a week. They were going to do surgery on her broken rotator cuff. They had done the surgery on her leg and her arm. And I called everybody I knew and said, please pray. We don't want this surgery because rotator cuffs, when you mess with them, they tend to hurt you the rest of your life. And a couple of days later, the surgeon came in and he was talking to her, and I said, what about this surgery on the rotator cuff? He said, oh, well, we won't need that. And we saw the X-rays, and my wife said, show me where that rotator cuff was broken. And the doctor tried to find it, and he said, I know it's in this area, but it's not there. So there was no fracture, no nothing in there. So there were so many people praying for my wife. I know there was hundreds, might have been thousands. They had some guy in Greenland that was praying for her and lighting candles every day until she was healed. People from Denver, Michigan, just all over the country. But my
So
wife
how's she doing today, Daniel?
If you saw her, you couldn't tell she had anything.
Wow. What's your wife's first name, Daniel, so we can continue to pray for her that everything continues to go well?
Her name is Maddie, but when they took us out of ICU and she's in her room and she's broken up, she's got boots on her legs, and this is what she said to me. She said, you know, we're blessed. I spent a month in the hospital with her, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking most people wouldn't be saying that. I said, okay, honey. I said, tell me what you see. She said, well, I didn't die and I'm not paralyzed. So if this is the cross that Jesus sent me to bear.
Wow.
Oops.
Oh,
we lost Daniel there.
Yeah, I think, well, Daniel, I think you might have just dropped, but I was ready to jump in and just share that, you know, when you talked about all the hundreds and thousands of people praying for your wife, and all I could think about, Jerry, is that, you know, wow, you know, maybe, you know, it was a testament to Daniel and his wife's faith. You know, it inspired others to have that, you know, infusion of faith. And I think sometimes that's what happens when we witness, when we observe, or we are a part of somebody else's tough journey. It inspires us to get rooted back in our faith. You know, how they handle it, how they model it. And it sounds like Maddie was her name. It is her name. Maddie is her name. Yeah. Maddie did a wonderful job at being strong and holding on to her faith. And Daniel, you know, recruiting everybody to pray for his wife, Maddie. Wow. I just wish continued blessings for Daniel and Maddie. They sound like a really cool couple. And I'm assuming she's back on the motorcycle.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. Daniel,
really
thank
cool.
you so much for sharing that inspiring account from Lafayette, Louisiana. All right, we have that line open there at 1-800-585-9396. Life is precious, but life is also fragile, and we're asking you for your takes about if you or someone you know has been near death, what the perspective has been like for you, how that's changed, deepen your faith, things like that.
And Jerry, can I just share real quickly, because you said something at the beginning of the show that, you know, when calls come in and people share their takes, it could inspire somebody, could change a life. Well, I just want to say immediately to Michael's story. Michael shared such an amazing story about the power of the rosary and how the Blessed Mother will solve all the problems and you know, grab you out of depression and help you. I already received 2 text messages, Jerry, from listeners saying, wow, that totally makes me grab onto my rosary. So
Beautiful.
See how we are inspiring each other to move closer to God. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Daniel, for your stories. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, we're going to go to Peter in Illinois next on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Peter, welcome to the show. How's your day going?
Good morning, folks. Good. Real good.
Good deal. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm calling because I'm absolutely convinced that God keeps people alive to accomplish a purpose. I've had over 35 surgeries. I've had 5 major accidents, 3 of which they said I would be dead before morning. I've had the priest there to give me last rites, and I've survived them all. And none of the accidents really got my attention. It was a $3 million divorce that I had, and my mother was an avid supporter, or Mother Mary was her mother, because my mother was raised without a mother. So much so that they built a monument to my mother at the local parish here. And recently I was in Peoria, and I went to a Latin Mass, and I went to confession before the Mass, and I was complaining to the priest about how hard it was. I've become somewhat of a self-trained amateur apologist, and in the confession I was telling the priest how difficult it was, and that to try and evangelize my friends. While I was on my way to Mass, I had asked a friend that was with me if he wanted to go to Mass, and while I was on my way, he said no, and so I went by myself. He sent me a text, and he took off. I think it scared him that much, and he had said before that he did want to go to Mass with me. So when I went to confession and told the priest that I was kind of fed up with how difficult all this was, I thought he was going to come out of the confessional around to my side and kick my tail. He started yelling at me and telling me that I was blind and I couldn't see what God was doing, that he's using me to evangelize these other people. And I happen to have a particular group of friends. All of them are wealthy, which I was at one time too, and all of them seem to have a serious case of attachment disorder. I mean, these guys have, collections of 400 and 500 motorcycles, and but all of them seem to be, none of them are really running from me, but it's a problem when all of a sudden you've been the worst sinner in the bunch, and then things change and you're preaching to them. People. Right. So that's it. I've even had an experience, it was about 2 years ago, where I am absolutely convinced that my guardian angel drove the motorcycle. I was not paying attention. I was going to rear-end a car. My guardian angel grabbed control of that motorcycle and manipulated it like I couldn't have, whipped around the car, went right through a red light. There was nobody coming, and I was shaking after it happened. I had to pull over. I couldn't believe it myself, because I know I did not do that. And so I am convinced that if God has a purpose for you, he'll keep you alive.
It sounds like it, Peter, in your case. And first of all, I mean this obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but you got to stop having accidents like this, Peter, because you've come through all of them so far. But there could be one out there that's waiting for you that you may not make it. So I mean that jokingly, of course, Peter. But we rejoice with you, that God has brought you through all of those, and yet. Debbie, Peter's perspective is that, even all of those didn't get his attention until it was the divorce and, the expensive divorce and all of that. And as he's describing, sometimes it doesn't matter what God allows us to go through, we don't see his purpose, greater purpose, until we sort of are able to let go of things and stuff and the things that fill us up, so that there's room inside of us for God to get in there and do the work he wants to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Peter, you heard me say at the beginning of the show that, so many times people will come to a near-death experience and it's not their time because their purpose, their mission hasn't been completed. And who was it? That was Mark Twain that said, there's two most important days in your life. And most people say, it's the day you were born and the day you die. No, it's the day you were born and the day you find out your purpose, the day you know your purpose in life. And I've often said to people, your purpose can be fulfilled within a day or within 100 years. We don't know because there's no, time. God stands outside of time. And so I think it is so awesome, Peter, that you confirmed that there is in your own life, experience, that God has you here for a mission and a purpose. We are all here. We're not here by accident. We are here because we have a purpose. We have a chosen mission. And the sooner we get in alignment with that and in alignment with God, it really does make for a beautiful mission. So with that, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for sharing your story. We're going to move very quickly over to David, listening in Ohio, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, David. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello.
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 Hi, David.
I wasn't sure if I'm on. I wanted to say that my mother told me a story that when she was pregnant with me, she almost had a miscarriage. And there have been several other bullets that I've missed all my life. The Lord has been gracious to me, and He's really, kept me from dying in a number of situations where, because of my own stupidity or someone else's, I could have easily bought the farm. And yet I see other people around me that, sometimes die of stupid reasons you'd never think that would kill anyone. Like you were saying at the beginning of the program, there are other people who would survive something that you think would kill 10 people, and they're fine. They come out of, a totaled car, crushed like a tin can with not a scratch. And it's really a testament to God's providence. And yet I see people that, have been so loving and so kind and so outgoing, that have been taken from this earth. And I was diagnosed with autism in 2012. I guess it explains the natural talent I seem to have for being able to tick people off. And sometimes I wonder what I'm doing here when I can't get a job. I'm living off other people's tax money, and not even some of the schools I used to go to want me. And I have to say, God has a purpose for me, but I don't know what that purpose is. And it's a hard time. I have a hard time figuring that out, except that I spend all my time in prayer and interceding for people, and hopefully that's doing some good. I know that I was never allowed to grieve for a friend who was killed in a traffic accident when I was 16. I wasn't. I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't do anything, and I wasn't even allowed by the troop in which he was an Eagle Scout to talk to people about the death, because it had so traumatized the family that my need to grieve and talk about it was unimportant. And so I think that people really need to turn to God when things like that happen. And I don't know, maybe I'm talking too much.
Well, no, David, I wanted to zero in on something that you said. Mm-hmm. And, you've said that, you made a lot of comments here, and some of them, it sounds like, you're down on yourself a little bit, and I would encourage you to try to not be so much, because, you said you don't know why, you can't get a job, and you're living off the other people's taxes, or whatever, however you put it, I don't remember. But then, right in the midst of that, Debbie, he said, all I do is spend all my time in prayer. And I thought,
right.
I thought, Debbie, that you're talking about, David says, I can't find my purpose. That's
his purpose. Yeah.
That's it. David, I hope you realize that. So much of this show has been, spent talking about the power of prayer and the importance. We heard from Michael and how Mary was so important. And without prayer, in sort of being the glue that holds everything together that we're talking about today, Debbie, that is it. I mean, what an incredible ministry David could have for countless people around the world.
Right. And David, that's the thing about prayer. We don't feel it, see it, can touch it right away. We don't know that. That's why it's so beautiful, because prayer is completely aligned with God. And that's why it is so powerful. So, David, there's a ministry mission and purpose right there. I agree with Jerry wholeheartedly, and I pray that you come to realize that, because you do have that ability, and that will affect souls for eternity, David. So, thank you so very much for sharing your story.
Yeah, and we're going to pray for you too, David. We got a lot of calls here. I want to thank you for calling in, but we're going to ask the entire Take Two with Jerry and Debbie listening audience to keep you in prayer, that God will just buoy your spirits, and just especially make sure you realize what a beloved son of God that you are, and you've got that great purpose in your life. So, all right, we're going to get to as many of you as we can. Appreciate the patience of all of you. We're going to go to Karen next in Peoria, Illinois, listening to EWTN Radio on Sirius XM 130. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
Hi there. Welcome.
Hi. I think about my mom, who was diagnosed with a back problem, and she has had many surgeries, and she always had the hope of getting better. But now she is pretty much paralyzed and has no feeling from her toes all the way up to her chest. And I have been driving 7 hours every month to see her for like a week at a time. And in one of the last visits, she was in a really, really bad situation where she had a broken bone, couldn't put any pressure on her legs at all, so she was stuck pretty much to a recliner chair for 3 days. And so she had to go to the bathroom, she had to eat, sleep, everything from this chair. And she was suffering so greatly. And the whole time I was by her side and sleeping on the couch and praying. And I was so excited because I could see Jesus. I could see Jesus in her hope. She still had a smile. She said that she physically felt that Jesus was holding her hand. And at night, I'm like, Jesus, I see you. I see you. And it was... I go to Eucharistic adoration and I go to Mass, but I've never seen him like I did in my mom, who is suffering so much. And she is closer to him now through this illness than I ever thought that she would be. So,
wow.
Yeah,
Karen, that is amazing. And you know what? Our vision changes when we allow God into a certain situation, or when we we can go through the most horrific circumstances. I was just, many of our listeners know Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. He's actually in town here. He's giving a Lenten mission at my parish. We're very blessed about this. And in his talk Monday night, he included an account of Mother Teresa, how she used to pick up, just the most wretched, filthy, disgusting looking, dying people in the streets of Calcutta. At least this is the view that most people would have of these people. And a reporter asked her one time, he described them that way. He said, "Mother, why do you pick up and hold these filthy, stinking, disgusting?" She said to him, she goes, "Is that what they look like? Is that what they look like?" She didn't see them that way. And Debbie, I'm hearing Karen say her mother's vision has been changed completely. She's not looking at her body saying, "Oh, poor me. Oh, look at me. I can't this, I can't that." She's just simply uniting herself with Jesus. And that just opens up our eyes and our vision to see the beauty of the Lord so much more profoundly, I believe. This is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I completely agree, completely, and it has to really inspire you, Karen, and all the people around your mom as well, because she's just a living witness of Christ manifested, through her, and that's huge. I mean, that is absolutely it's truly amazing beyond words. May we ask, Karen, how is your mom doing right now? And do you have, can you give your mom's first name so we can pray for her by name? How is she doing right now?
Sure. Her name is Sue, and she is 75 years old, and she has a lot of friends that will call her, and they will say to her, "I thought you were better because your voice sounds so good. You sound so happy. How could you be happy?" And she says, "I'm happier now than I've ever been my whole life because I feel God's presence where I did not feel that before." And if you would see a picture of her from, sitting down in a chair, you would think that she's the most beautiful, happy person ever. And then she can't even, her independence has totally been taken away. I mean, she can't even hardly stand up from a chair. But you would never know that.
Well,
It's just,
Karen,
beautiful.
Well, Karen, tell your mom, Sue, that now she's got the world holding her up in prayer, and that is a beautiful thing for Sue. And her independence may have been taken away, but now her dependence is all completely with God, which is what we all want and what we all need. And so please ask Sue to pray for us, because she is so totally intimately connected to Christ, and that's huge. So if you could please do that. And Karen, God bless you. Thank you for sharing your family story. That was wow.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Paul, you have been holding for a long time. We just try to get to as many calls. So, Paul, we're going to get you on here. We've got 90 seconds, but we wanted to hear your great take from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Howdy.
First, I want to thank you, too, for your ministry. I try and take my lunch every day in my vehicle so I can listen to your show.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to say for people like David's call, so many times he almost died, in that never to be afraid, because if it's not your time, we all have a purpose. You know, the old boy can't take us, because if it's not our time, we must fulfill what God the Father sent us here for. Mm-hmm. And the old boy has tried to kill me 8 times in my life.
Wow.
I'm still here. I'm 65.
Yeah, you put him in his place, apparently, Paul.
Well, when I first went to go look at my college, it was on top of a mountain. And when you go up a mountain, you're on the outside. And up that whole mountain, it's just a steep drop on the other side. Well, I'm going up the mountain, and down the mountain is coming a big tractor-trailer truck full of logs. And the man behind him, or a woman, I couldn't see, decides to pass.
Got about 30 seconds, Paul.
On that mountain, they had filled out and put a gas station. And guess when it was? It was right then.
Wow.
I just pulled into the gas station. Of course, after they passed, I shake it like a leaf. And then when I was a kid...
Real quick, Paul, we're running out of time here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Many times. And a long time I said, God, why are you saving my life? Why do you keep... I don't understand. I happen to be bipolar type 2, so depression's a big thing in my life. But I will never do it, suicide, because I love God too much, and I know that it would offend him. But, so I have to sit there some nights and just keep hearing the old boy tell me I'm no good, I'm worthless, or whatever. But I'm starting to realize that just me having my faith and not doing it, and loving God and performing acts of mercy, that's what I was saying.
That is a victory, Paul. And
amen.
You know what? You would never know, to listen to you, Paul, that you have, bipolar and depression. And just be strong, Paul. Be faithful. Be joyful as best you can. I know I've had depression. I know what it's like. It's not easy. We're going to pray for you. And thank you, Paul, for being a friend of ours, a part of the Take Two with Jerry and Debbie family. We appreciate it. And Debbie, another important topic tomorrow coming up for those who are married outside the church or otherwise in an irregular marriage. We're going to have some hope for them.
We're talking about how to get your marriage blessed in the church. So we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day.